Welcome to That Moto Show with Dirt Bike TV's Jay Clark and producer Donnie Bales.
22. So that's a long time, right, Donnie? We say this every time.
We do say it every time.
At the same time. But look, how cool is that bike behind you?
Oh, this thing's awesome.
Donnie shot all the CRs. We're going to have a cool video coming out on that. We have drone footage. We have all kinds of cool stuff, right? So this has got a black chrome look to it. We've talked about maybe converting this bike to the 96 MC themed looking bike. We'll see how that goes. So again, we're going to have these bikes at the Langston show, which is coming up just in a couple weeks, on October 26th.
Unfortunately, it feels like the MC bike is just what everybody wants.
Right.
I mean, it's just the way it goes.
Or the early 92, 93 Honda look with the blue number plate, yellow.
Yeah, the Stanton look.
And J&B was kind of in there. So it's a mix.
Right.
So SMX is over. So kind of fun. But now all we have to look forward to is Donations, which is cool in the sense of it's cool, but it's just not like our races.
Right.
It's kind of exciting. And it's harder to follow because there's, it's a team deal where you can do well but not good enough,
Right.
And so it's a lot of bad luck can happen and all those things. So and it could be muddy because it's that time of year.
It's England, man.
Right.
It not could be. It will be.
Probably like.
What did they say? If you want it to rain there, just wait 5 minutes or something like that. Yeah.
So it could be bad. Okay. Oh, also you have on our shirt that we showed last show, and then there's the back of it laying there. Those shirts are available from Decal Works. That's how you buy them. Is you go there and you can use our existing code. It's like Dirt Bike TV 124.
Right.
Yeah. So you can use the code there and you can get the shirt right there, or you can get it when you're getting your graphics or numbers or backgrounds or whatever.
Right.
So.
All right. So who is number 22?
22. I think of Buddy Antonez on the Kawasaki.
Yeah.
He was on that Great Western team.
Right. I remember that.
White and blue bikes, and they were kind of cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
They were Kawasaki.
Great Western Bank.
Yeah, but it never paid him anything.
No.
They had a sponsor.
That's a lot of riders, dude.
It didn't work out, unfortunately. So
I think of a couple riders.
Because you have way more of a history. Remember the last show how guys were complimenting your immense knowledge of the history of the sport?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're like a super fan at heart. And you remember all this stuff. And you remember longer, older stuff more than I do.
Yeah, I don't know why I do. I think I have reasons that I remember a lot of stuff. But
and you like to live in the past?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Maybe. All right. JMB, I think, is Jean-Michel Bale.
Okay. On a 250?
Yep.
On a 250.
Yeah. And then RJ he had number 22 for a year or two, I think.
Oh, man, I don't even remember that.
Yeah. And then, of course, who's really the most famous number 22?
He made it. He was 2-2.
2-2.
Like a 2-2.
Team 2-2.
But it was like, if you're outside of our sport, you're like, why is he talking about wearing a 2-2? But they went with 2-2. And that was Chad Reed's team. And him, he had that for a good amount of years.
Okay, I like the current rider that has it. But there's sometimes I don't feel like if the number isn't representative of the last guy, I don't know that you should get it.
Yeah. Oh, is it Noreen?
It's Freddie Noren.
Noren. No, that's how you say it. Freddie Noren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Freddie.
Right. But he's not as good as Chad Reed.
He's not a Chad Reed.
All right. So that's fair.
Yeah.
Right. So that could be a harsh thing to live up to if you're Freddie.
I think it would be too, because if somebody goes, wait a second, like
they haven't been to a race in a few years, they're like,
that guy's not very fast anymore.
Right. All right. So we got that to look forward to is Donations.
I do like Donations because I am a very patriotic individual, and so I like representing our country.
Do you watch it live, or do you just watch the highlights?
I watch it recorded or whatever.
We have to see if there's a way maybe we can see about watching it live. When would it be? So if it's on, the main races are on, they do some races on Saturday.
It's 9 hours ahead, I think.
So yes. So on Sunday, it would be on like it'd be on Saturday night, like at 2 or 3 in the morning. Or something.
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. 3 or 4 in the morning.
Whenever it's been here, every year it's been here, I've gone.
Right.
So
there's talk. I mean, Glen Helen would love to have it. I'd love to see it at Glen Helen. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be real cool for me because I already told you what I want there. So what I'm going to leverage.
Right. So, so we'd be looking forward to that if it ever makes it to Glen Helen.
I mean, honestly, could it be any better if you want to go see a Donations than it being at Glen Helen? For us, personally.
No, that'd be rad. It'd be so cool.
Right. So how many times in your life have you been to Glen Helen?
Just hundreds and hundreds.
Hundreds and hundreds. So it would just be like another day going to Glen Helen.
Right. Except we'd probably spend the night because we wouldn't want to be in line.
I would drag my small motorhome out there.
Right. So that's what we do. So we'll see. Who knows? All right. So it gives us not much to look forward to other than football. When you're not a big football fan.
I'm not a football fan.
So you don't have a lot of things to really care about the next few months.
What I end up doing the next few months is then spending a lot of that in Lake Havasu and off-roading out there, just single track and side-by-side and all that stuff.
And more family time. Get that in real quick.
More family time.
Yeah, before the season starts.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should just start with some questions, right? Should we just get right into questions?
Start with I'll start. I got one right. Or do you want to go with that?
No, you go ahead. You got us ready.
Okay, yeah. So Ronald A., he has a KTM 250 XCF, an older one. He didn't specify what year.
Okay.
I was wondering if
I think it was a 12 or 13 range. I think I put that on there.
All right. PDS.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was wondering if there was a way to get more low end out of the bike. I did the exhaust and opened up the air cage. We're putting an ECU from an SXF. Will that help? Are putting different cams in. I had a HT Racing 320 big bore kit back in the day. It was an awesome bike. Would a 270 kit help? Thanks.
You know the answer to this, don't you?
I do.
Okay. So the answer to this is no. So I just told him nicely, just enjoy the bike. My biggest problem is any of these mods he's talking about doing to this older 4-stroke, which is older, heavy, not going to get the gains that you really want to get, and you're not going to ever get that money back out of it. So I would just enjoy
it. Would literally be half as much as the bike is worth.
Right. So if you put $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 into this bike, we know what that bike is going to be a tough sell at. So as a 250, and if it's a 12, 13 range, 14.
Let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. So we know if it's a 12 or 13. For the SXFs, that the 12 and a half and 13 is when they really started making gains with that bike. On an XCF, what year would you really start buying those bikes at?
For me, 17.
17.
You got to be that new, because the older generation motors were really heavy. The frame, everything was heavy. They had those terrible forks, the PDS forks in 16, and those other ones weren't terrible, but they're still not great, and they all had PDS. So I would prefer to get 17 and up myself. And would it still? Would a 250 XCF still be something you would ride? 2017, yeah.
So you wouldn't have to go to a 350. You could
no, it'd be a great bike. So 2017 and up, if you can find good used bikes, the only problems you'll see with those bikes typically are the fuel pump, which isn't that tough of a fix, okay? But the internal engines last a long time. That's another thing I think we'll get into one of the questions or comments. So those engines go a long time. 250, 350, 450.
Would there be, I know the fuel pumps are an issue. Would there be an hour range that you would just automatically kind of go, okay, let's replace this fuel pump just to get ahead of it?
Anything over 150, 200 hours, yeah.
Okay, so it should go to 150, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No problem, typically.
All right, sorry, I got a little off track, but then I started thinking, like, what would be a good bike?
Right, so, but in these older 4-strokes especially, now we're going to even get into some newer 2-strokes, I think, and one of the questions is, you don't need, if you're going to add, these gains you're going to get by adding a 270 kit or cams is so small. Those kind of modifications and cams and big bores are good for a current bike that a guy's just trying to get the most out of it. He's racing it actively. I don't think I would spend that time and effort on there. He could sell that bike. You could ride it the way it is, enjoy it, that's fine, or sell it and just upgrade with that money you would have spent. Sell it, upgrade that $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,000 you would have spent onto a newer bike. That's what I would do.
All right.
Simple math, right?
That is pretty simple math. Did you want to read that next one?
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
You read yours.
So I got one from Matt S., and he says, "Hey Jay, I hope you could simplify. I guess I'm looking for some tips, but I'm hoping you could simplify it for me. I'm a disabled veteran. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you very much.
And we feel for you, and hopefully things are going well." It says, that he grew up racing and loved dirt bikes, anything dirt bike related. Now that I'm retired, I want to get into the mechanics side of the dirt bikes and to have a hobby to work on something. I recently picked up an 03 CR85 from a friend for free. For free, remember that. Okay. Who said it's been sitting for about 15 years. They blew it up and it just sat. I thought it'd be a perfect little bike to learn some of the mechanics side of things. Looks like the Kickstarter is completely stuck as well. Basically, I want to go through the bike and get it working again. Is there a certain order of things you'd recommend doing, like cleaning, rebuilding carburetor before the motor? What order of tips would you do for something that's been sitting this long? Any tips would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so first of all, I think I did see pictures of this one, and I think it was relatively fine. Other than it, you could tell it's rough from sitting for a long time. But the first thing I tell people is a bike for free, or $100 or $300 or $400. Sometimes I tell my friends of friends who hit me up and I go, I'll pay you $100 to not take that bike, because it's like going to be more work than it's worth. So sometimes you got to be careful of that. So a blown up bike on the surface can seem okay. We'll just fix it. Now in this case, I think it's somewhat worth it. Okay, because the CR85s are good, reliable bikes. If you can get it fixed, it could be very costly. But if it's missing other parts, the brakes are messed up, the wheels are jacked up. Those are the other things that would then add a bunch of variables to this that I'd probably be like, no, it's not worth it. If the frame's cracked and
but listen, I agree with you in fixing it. But just to learn how to take it apart, I mean, this is a great thing,
right? Because it's a simple bike. So an engine rebuild, so you want to get that. So I would start with the engine, obviously, engine and carburetor. You pull those things out. You're going to get the carburetor. You want to go through that. Nowadays we have vapor blast. You can do that, or just get it really in a sonic clean. You want to get that thing really clean, and then go through and do a rebuild kit. ProX has good ones. There's many good rebuild kits out there. Rebuild that thing, put new jets in, and that's what I do with the carburetor. Then on the engine, again, you're going to clean out. I would clean the external part of the engine as best you can. Solvent scrubbing, we have videos on that. I would clean that external part of the engine and then split it apart. And you're going to rebuild the bottom end. ProX has a great rod kit. You can rebuild the bottom end there, and ProX has main bearings and seals for that. And then top end, Wiseco or ProX have pistons for that. And you can inspect the clutch on those little bikes.
What year is that bike, did he say?
He said 03.
03.
Which is one of the later years of those bikes. Spencer rode those bikes.
We did a story on one. Remember, we made it like an off-road version, right?
So they're really good bikes. And now chances are there's some damage from when this thing locked up. So you have to see where that damage is. If it did break a case, then that could throw a wrench into this thing. So that's why I'd get there first. Inspect all that and do that first. And then make sure there's nothing damaged. The cylinder has a high chance of being damaged as well. And that's something that Millennium can repair the cylinder. And that's a big help to be able to get the cylinder fixed. So depending upon the cost can range on this thing. I would say $500 at the minimum if you're doing the work yourself for the engine. $500 up to $1,000, depending upon how much money you save and all that.
What's that bike worth? Running great shape.
Oh, running great shape. $2,000.
$2,000.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Is that the new low limit?
It's getting there. Yeah. So, and kids' bikes do better. A good running kids bike's always going to be more so than a 450, right, or a 250F, because a kids bike, there's always kids coming up there seems to be a hard to find good bikes out there
for kids bikes.
Yeah, so I think $500 to $1,000 on the engine. Then that carburetor you can do really cheap, and then the next thing would be suspension. I would get the suspension serviced, and a lot of guys have local guys, or depending where you live. I would just do a service. Don't worry about valving or springs. Just get it all cleaned up.
Sometimes even motocross shops will just do a service.
Oh yeah. So and service and stuff, you're going to spend anywhere from $200 to $400, depending upon parts and damage and so forth. But to service the suspension, so he could be well under the value of the bike by doing this. Plastic and graphics and all that stuff, great. But I would wait on all that till you got those things done. And then look over the frame. You decide, hey, you don't have to powder coat a frame. You can just clean it all real nice. You could do the Krylon touch-up when everything's out, and you can have a nice-looking bike.
You can use that plastic renew, too, if that...
Right. And so the other thing I would recommend while it's down is checking all the bearings. You're going to obviously do the stem bearings. You see if anything needs to be replaced. You can get like ProX kits, or just grease the ones that aren't damaged.
Was this bike sitting outside?
It just said sitting, so it could hopefully it was in the garage, or in the house would be awesome.
They have a tendency to go to the side of the house when this happens.
Right, just like that RMX, man.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yes,
I feel sad when I see bikes like that.
Yep.
It's like you're throwing a member of the family outside.
Right.
Aaron A. I currently ride a KLX 300R, and it's been a good bike to get back into riding after so many years off. I'm ready to upgrade, and I'm leaning toward the new TE 300 for PNW trails. Do we know what PNW?
Pacific Northwest, bro.
Oh, I don't go up in that area. Okay, yeah, you're right. I think I guess I've heard that before.
Yeah.
This will be my first two-stroke, and I'm looking forward to it. My wife and kids are just getting into riding. I like to hit the trails pretty hard, but their pace is much slower because they're learning. I'm not complaining because I'm so excited that they're getting into riding. Is it okay to run a two-stroke at very low speeds, barely off of idle, for extended periods when they ride them? Not sure if it'll get in enough lubrication or cause any other issues. Thanks for the advice. I listen to every episode of the podcast and love your content! Exclamation point.
I like it. Okay, so great question. And this is what two-strokes are really good at, especially trail two-strokes. And that TE300 he brought up, that's the bike that we just built. We talked about that last show, that bike.
Yeah.
And so the TE300 or the 300 XCW, the new generation ones, those bikes just mint. And even the carbureted ones, the XCs and XCWs like 17 and 19, those bikes are really good. Two-strokes are getting plenty of lubrication, and you don't have to stress about it overheating. It's better than having some big, 450 trail bike, than having one of those sitting there overheating, getting hot. You want to avoid that. So that's where he'd be running into trouble if he's having to come back and forth at real slow speeds. So it sounded like he's pretty excited about his wife and daughter getting into riding. So he was concerned about having to stay with them. I'd give him some tips on, hey, get him to a spot, let him rest a second. You go zip, 5 minutes up the trail, zip 5 minutes back. You get your little adrenaline rush, right? And then come meet him back and then take him out a little further, however you're doing your trail
Sometimes
system.
in these trail areas like that too, there's like a like where base camp is, they can have a little loop there when he can go do a bigger loop.
Well, I think he wants to stay. He wants to keep them together so they stay
contained.
Into it. Yes, he wants to stay. I get the impression, and I can't fault him on this, because when they get more into it, they'll be more. Once they get more comfortable, they're going to be okay with him taking off.
Oh, for sure.
With another guy from closer, or from just taking off and riding while they're, they go do a loop together. They spend an hour or two, and then he goes out for an hour by himself. So that's something that's possible. But I think I agree that what he's trying to do is probably good and noble, to keep them together.
Yeah.
So they're going to feel, so if one of them falls or whatever, they're not like, hey, we can't get the bike started, or she sprained or whatever.
Yeah, but depending on the age, obviously we know the kids pick this stuff up fast.
Right.
And the kids will be surpassing him in no time.
so anyway,
that happened to you at what age? When you
he was 15 or maybe 14 when Spencer could pass me and kind of stay ahead of me.
Were you like, oh dang, he's passing me, or were you like?
Well, what gave him motivation was he was on an RM125. I think we'd fixed up one of those for him.
Yeah.
And the rule was he wanted to ride a 250F. And so you have to pass me on the RM125.
Oh, I see.
And he was faster than me for a little bit, but couldn't pass me. And so I was riding and I think this is around 14 or 15. I had a CRF 250, and I remember it's got a couple dents in the swing arm from him hitting me.
He's ramming you.
Right, because he couldn't pass. So anyway, he basically did get faster on the 125. Then I was on a 250F, and then on the trail, it was right about the same time as well that he was far surpassing me on the trail and could do, as much or more.
Right.
So he was still having a few more falls at stuff, but overall, then from then on, he's been way better. So I would say right about there.
Yeah.
So, and I was only like 40 something, right?
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, two strokes are great for slow riding like that. You might have to check your jetting, or in this case, mapping, but on these newer bikes, you want to do anything on the map.
Maybe you'll follow a plug or two here and there, but it won't be
so rare.
It's
rare.
If
you have it running well, you shouldn't have any problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect. All right. Well, this says Espanol. So Jaime J says, "Hi Jay."
Hey, real quick. When I was in Spanish class,
yeah,
because me llamo Jay.
Yeah.
So you weren't allowed to say your name was Jay. So my Spanish name in Spanish class was Jaime.
Jaime. But that's Jamie, though.
I don't know. They call me Jaime.
All right, Jaime.
That was, you had to pick a name.
Me llamo Jaime.
Yeah, me llamo Jaime.
All right. Necesito tu ayuda.
Está muy bien.
All right. It says, "Hi Jay. In this video, I can see the bobbling that causes my bike."
Oh, it's bubbling.
Bubbling.
We have that video. Spencer's got it for you to post. You can see the video.
Okay.
Right here.
So it says, in the video, you can see my bike bubbling, in the case, my bike bogging when it gets very hot. Any idea what's causing the problem? Question mark. Filters new, pump new. and same problem.
Okay, so first thing I wrote him, and you could see it's bubbling. If you have a KTM, this is a KTM brand bike. When you have those bikes, we've talked about this before. The fuel pumps do go out, and it's either the filter splits or the pump itself. But usually the filter splits or cracks in there, and that's how you can tell. And sometimes it'll run okay for a little bit, but then once it gets warm and swells up, it will start pumping out. In this case, then he put a new filter in, a new pump in. And he did the same thing. So it's like, okay, so he's thinking it's something else. But I wrote him and said, hey, it sounds like it's still. And I said, did you buy a China pump or a stock pump? And he did buy an off-brand pump, which I've heard pros and cons from a few different people. We are cautious of running the off-brand pump. But he did pull it apart. And you know what he found was one of the clamps weren't tight. That's all it was. So he tightened up the clamp on the hose. You go into it, put it back, and it's all good.
So I got the craziest story.
Because I told him, hey, you got to take the pump apart. Something's wrong.
My buddy had a two-stroke in the early 90s, and the bike was bogging. It could not figure out why it was bogging. It had a pinhole in the fuel line.
Oh.
And it was sucking air through the fuel line.
But it wasn't enough to leak out too much.
It wasn't enough to go the other direction. Yeah. But it would pull the air in. It just happened to find
extra air.
Crazy. Anyway.
Okay, I got one. You ready?
Yeah, you go.
Christopher E. I have a 150 SX 2019. It almost needs a new top end. I was thinking of adding some power to it with a big bore.
Oh boy.
You know where this is going?
Oh boy.
I do not know what performance shops are good, so any recommendations would be appreciated. I already have a full Pro Circuit system. I also feel the clutch is going out. Wanted to see a better one. Is there a difference between Hinson and Recluse? I'm in SoCal. Okay. So 2019, this bike's 6 years old now.
Yep.
Okay. And these bikes aren't worth very much.
Nope.
So if you add money, because a big bore kit for this bike, they do make a 150 kit for these bikes, and it's around $1,000 for a 150.
I know how to fix this problem.
What?
Take the radiator cap off and put a 250 two-stroke underneath it and put it back on. And you'll solve the whole problem.
Solve the problem. Yeah. So here's my theory, especially now, because I have this theory of being cautious, of what you're going to spend your money on for the value, what you're going to get. And some people are like, hey, Jay, I don't plan on selling the bike. I want to make it the best I can. But you shouldn't become emotionally attached to it. Look, it's because it's not the same thing as other things we get attached to. So the dollars and cents aren't going to make sense. If you add that $1,000 big bore kit, the difference isn't that great. And at the end of the day, I've ridden 150s and 125s, and even with my big size, I like both. They're fun to ride, but the 150 is not going to keep you any closer to a 250F, really. The difference is like this. It's like an 8 or 10% difference. Like it's better, right? Like, okay, maybe it's 10% because you really notice, like it's a big difference, right? On the KTM bikes, because they give you an ECU and it's a bolt-on.
Well, what's a 250F difference?
Right. It's like double.
It's 100% different.
It's 100% better. So that's why I say on this case, if you don't have the money to get a new bike, just enjoy that bike. Make sure it's got a fresh piston in there. Make sure you got good gas and you're keeping it fresh. Oh, on the Recluse torque drive, that works really good in that bike, and so you can put that in there and just enjoy your riding. You buy more gas and tires and chains and sprockets and those things.
So you and I have the same philosophy, we've never discussed it, but I like all of my bikes, but they're just what I would call a tool to me.
Right.
And I'm ready to get a new tool anytime I can. I don't name them names. I don't, like when I hear people naming vehicles, sometimes it trips me out. I'm like,
and many of the comments I get from guys are willing to spend too much on that older bike.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, you don't want to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a bike that's only it's only worth $3,000 or $4,000 total. So you spend all that money on it. It's like that doesn't make any financial sense.
I think that I bet you that they probably think they're going to save money by doing it that way.
Right.
But the benefit doesn't outweigh.
They're like, I like my bike so much, I don't want to start over with another one.
Yeah.
All those things, like you said, I would sell that bike. Let's just make it up here for $3,000, and then or $4,000, whatever it is, and then the money I had out, you were obviously going to spend $2,000. Add that $2,000 to what you sold your bike for. Okay, so I sold it for $3,000. Now I got $5,000. What can I go buy for $5,000? And you weigh it out.
How many questions you get? This is a very common
one. I got one yesterday that I'll bring next show. It's the greatest question, dude.
Greatest question
ever on a used bike, because he asked me about his used bike, but unfortunately he asked me after he bought it.
Okay.
You're gonna like the analogy I sent him, dude.
I'm sure I am.
You're gonna love it. Okay, so
they don't get the benefit that I get from you. You start out with a "come on," right? That's your first thing.
I said don't get mad. I wrote them straight away, and then so I'll let you guys know that one. Yeah. I didn't have time to add it to this show, so I don't have the question with me.
All right, let's go on. Nick W. 2023 CRF 450. My buddy has a pile of oil in his airbox, and he's not sure why. The bike is cutting out on him, but makes sense if he's sucking oil into the air filter. I told him to check the breather tube and see if it's full, but it sounds like a hefty amount of oil in there. Any ideas?
Yeah, it's somewhat common for bikes, and so that don't vent out to the ground. So you know, some of the bikes like the Hondas, different things are being environmentally friendly, and they vent the valve cover will go, oil will go, the air what do we call it? Vent hose will go into the airbox, and then it gets sucked back in, and so then you're running really rich with this oil sucking back into your motor. It's bubbling in there.
So you
can bypass that.
You know that other sport, the motorsport I used to ride, Supermoto. It was very common at high RPM to blow the oil back into the bike like that.
And now there you couldn't vent it out to the ground.
Couldn't vent it because we had to have catch cans.
Catch cans for everything.
But we didn't want to vent it into the airbox.
So did you have catch cans for that vent?
Oh, you bet.
Okay. So you want to just vent it out to the ground, and on a dirt bike track, it's just going to vent, and you're going to actually help the dirt.
You're going to help the dirt. It'll better traction.
Retain more water.
For sure.
All that. So it'll be better on the ground. So that's why I would recommend doing that.
Yeah.
All right. I got your next one.
Go.
Tom S. I have a 24 KTM 350 EXCF with just over 3,000 miles, 114 hours. So so he's getting a lot more hours than miles, which is good. It means he's doing some single track and stuff too.
For sure.
If you go by the manual, it's almost time for me to rebuild the engine. I know they are being cautious. In reality, at what point should I consider replacing the piston? Oh, also, this is a 24, and he's already got 114 hours. So that's really, really admirable of Tom.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, you and I aren't getting that many.
No.
Right now, we need to work on that. Okay, approximately how long will the valves last?
He's shaming you, honestly.
Right. Yeah, I feel called out. I have not even adjusted them yet. I know that 113 hours is a lot to me, but it seems like it's brand new. Oh, he has 114. I just got it in April. Holy crap, he just got this bike in April.
That's not even...
I just had my suspension service at 100 hours. That's really good. Okay, most guys don't get suspension.
That's 6 months he's had that bike.
Which was 50 hours longer than the shop recommended, yes. And they said that they weren't too bad. I'm not too hard on the bike, and it's well maintained. Changes the oil every 10 hours, and oil filters every other oil change. Let me know what you can say with certainty, just looking for your estimate. Okay, so what I wrote him is, first of all, we've seen tons of these KTM bikes. The internal parts in the KTM engine, the valves are from Del West, and then you got Panko rods. They got these really high quality parts and bearings. These engines last a long time. So as long as you don't suck in dirt, these engines can go 400, 500 hours. We had a guy send us some pictures of his 350, and he only tore it apart because he felt guilty, but at like 400 hours, he tore it apart and just put rings on the piston.
Do the other brands, Japanese brands, do they run third party? Because you know what third parties that they're running in KTM.
No.
Like Honda has their internal parts.
Right. So, and just that componentry inside the engines, really high quality between the cylinder, the piston, the crank, everything lasts really well. They can have some other little problems, quirkiness or whatever, electrical stuff or fuel pumps or different things, but the internal engine parts are pretty dang good. Occasionally they'll have some problems, like with the 250, 350 for a few years had a plastic oil pump that would cause some problems and so forth. But overall, the engines are really durable. So I told this guy, I would have no problem putting 300 plus hours on this thing before I'd even think of it. If it starts to get hard to start at all, that means your
valves are getting
valve adjustment could be off. So you would check the valve clearance on those. So and I wouldn't even worry about checking them until 200.
And they get tight, right? They get tighter.
Yeah, and so it'd be harder to start.
All
right, so we ready for some product stuff?
Let's do some products.
Okay, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We got some really cool stuff. Yeah. So first thing I got here on this table is this. This is a YZ250F, and I have a cool picture of me on this bike that I just emailed you.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, how cool does that look?
Well, it's okay. I'm thinking about not running it, but if you make me, I guess I will.
Dang it. Okay.
No, so, it's a really good picture, and I think that's our favorite jump on that track.
Right.
Right.
So this is the dual injector setup from twisted. So you get an extra injector right here. So people ask, but you can't see this a lot. I've shot little videos where it's revving up, and then right here is where it squirts in. So this is giving you an extra injector. You already have the throttle body here that is sending fuel in. This is giving more of a mist of fuel that's going through the throttle body to go in at the same time.
Does Jamie do this as a kit? You can do it yourself?
Yes, and the 24 has been more difficult. So the 24, 25, he's been playing with different ideas. So I just pulled this off our 24, which is going back to stock. And so you'll see one fuel line goes to the throttle body and one goes to this extra injector here. So you have the extra fuel lines. And then he has this electrical line, which will go to this plug of the injector. And then this line coming off of here goes into the vortex. So the vortex actually has two outputs on these. The older vortexes didn't. It's an auxiliary thing, so you could plug in something like this. You can have an external deal. So he has one plug is for programming and one plug is for your external whatever you want to run. They have different options of things they can do with
How did he even think of doing this?
Well, because first of all, some of the manufacturers like Kawasaki come with a dual injector.
Oh,
so they're
I see.
like, he sees the benefits of some of those bikes. And he says for 25, the Kawasaki 250 even changed it a little bit better design. He thinks that's going to be a pretty good design for 25 and the dual injector in the Kawasaki 250. And people go, what about most 450s? You're not struggling for power. So it's more of a 250 mod. And it's kind of an expensive mod to be doing. I would always recommend, hey, you do a Vortex first if you can't afford to be doing the rest of your stuff. You could do this, will clean up from Jamie, or he does stock ECUs as well. This will clean up your mapping a lot better. So the bike will run cleaner. And then later, if you want to try or test anything, he would remap your ECU for something like a dual injector. But you see, he has to make a whole little deal into this box. So the newest one he's playing with the 24-25 even has it coming in over here, dude. Yeah, and shooting it straight this way. So he's playing around with different locations.
Oh, interesting.
So it has to do with how the fuel's, going in, and it's
that
missed.
guy is a smart guy.
Yeah, and he tests everything on the dyno to see it, and then obviously after you test the dyno, you're going to do track testing. You don't just trust one thing. So so anyway, it's been a little bit more of a challenge on the older bikes. I guess all of them. It was a way bigger difference. The difference isn't as big as it was on the older, let's say 23 and back models. So, but it's been a great bike. Even Kiefer, the other day we were riding, and I came out of it. He's way faster than me. Lapped me 5-6 laps at Glen Helen, let's say. But he commented that when he came in, and I had the MX-14 on the rear, so I was throwing up a good roost. He says it took him, like I pulled him in a section. He's on a 450, but he wasn't catching me coming out of the turn until the very end, where it's like, better. He's more skilled at braking and so forth. So in certain areas, it was crazy how good this bike runs. You feel with this dual injector, you feel really connected to the rear wheel. Your hand does.
It probably doesn't increase overall horsepower, but it would increase it in the range.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So it's just fun to see the kind of stuff you can do. And I will tell you that most race teams are doing things like this: 3D printing, custom, injectors in different locations. So all the race teams, factory race teams, all of them are doing some type of modifications like this. So
that's awesome.
And his modifications are ending up on top bikes, from Club Moto to Roxon's bike and all those guys. Yeah. So they have lots of those.
Hey, did you see? What do you? I'm getting off topic here. Mm-hmm. What do you make of that video of Roxon having an electric start on this?
Well, what's funny is I was at Twisted like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Larry Brooks was in there talking about it. We talked about it a little bit. They were working on it, and it was going to be about 4 to 5 pounds total.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Or 3 to 4. Might have been 3 to 4, the guy was telling him. But he was having a hard time buying if it was going to be really that, So
right.
It'll be interesting.
I don't think that bike can afford any more weight.
Yeah, I don't think he's racing with it right yet.
Is it legal to race with that?
Sure.
It is.
It's because it's just a bolt-on aftermarket deal. I think if they were making cases and those things, so it's external, so it's not like.
Right, and they're not changing any dimensions of anything.
No.
Right.
No.
All right.
Okay, next, let's talk about tools. And then you queue up that question.
I have a question. I already have that ready.
Okay, so first thing I'm going to talk, when I came today, I got my compression tester back.
Yeah.
Okay, Donnie borrowed it to check. You should put that photo in.
I have a couple photos, yeah.
You could throw those photos in. Donnie was selling a jet ski, and it was actually my old jet ski, and is selling a jet ski so he can buy a different jet ski he wants to buy. Although you could have had multiple ones, but
I know.
yeah, no one's
Well, I
counting.
will have multiple ones.
Right. I'm gonna get a 4-stroke one. But anyway, on the 2-stroke one, the guys were messaging him and say, hey, we want to know what the compression is. So he, real quick, 2 strokes, really quick and easy to check compression. Now, it doesn't always tell you everything, because one of the downsides, it tells you if the things are worn out. You know, do you want to see that it's pumped? What was it, like 165?
165.
Okay, 165 compression. Now, you could have a bike, like a dirt bike, and say it's got 165 to 200 compression, whatever it has. But the piston could break tomorrow because it's got way too much time on it. It's got ring seal's still good, but it could still have a failure. So you want to be careful of that. That's why some things get timed out even if compression's still good. So especially with a cast piston, a stock one, you know, and I see guys with CR250s like we build, and guys are like, compression's good, and they want to keep running it for like hundreds of hours. And most people don't have hour meters, especially on older bikes.
Right.
They have no clue. Like, they have no clue of the hours. I have
that's probably one of the best things you can buy for your bike is an hour meter.
Yeah. I have a funny story about that. I don't know if I've told you. I had a good buddy, Mark, who had a track at his house.
Yeah.
And he passed away.
Yeah.
Great guy. He was really fun. And he got really into the CR450 4-strokes as soon as they came out, because he rode CR250 2-strokes, and he had a 2-stroke and a 4-stroke most of the time. And he finally got rid of the 2-stroke after a while. But he rode a 2-stroke from, you know, like he bought the first like 02 450.
Yep.
And rode them like, he got one every year, like 07, you know, 08 range, you know. He had all these. And then, I don't know if he got into fuel injection. I might have been around 09, 010. I can't remember. I'll have to look at that. But anyway, one of the first.
He had fuel injection.
Yeah, okay.
He did.
Yeah. Like to like 10, because I remember he went to Mammoth. But anyway, he had the CR450, like an 03, 04, 05, somewhere in there, and it blew up. Like, folded the piston. Okay, just destroyed the thing. And he's like, man, it shouldn't do that and everything. And he didn't have an hour meter. And so we started, and I go, Mark, how much do you ride? You know, we started doing some math.
Yeah.
Okay, because he's trying to say that it has under 100 hours. I'm like, no way, dude.
Loose math you're doing, and it's way high.
So we started doing some math, and I go, you ride 3 to 4 days a week. Okay, and we started doing some math and everything. We got up to like 300 hours. Easily. Like, and that was being conservative. So he had over 300 hours on this thing, and when the piston finally, and the problem with big 4-strokes is when they lose power, it's so slight, and most of us can't ride a 450. None of us can ride a 450. It's compatible. So what happens is when a 450 starts to lose power, you start to ride better.
Right.
Most guys, right?
Right.
You're able to ride it hard. You think you're doing really good because you can ride it harder now because it's down 10% in power,
You're like,
right?
I'm getting faster.
Right. So that's what happened.
And that track actually took, I won't say a lot of power, but the way that track was, it kind of took, you couldn't tell how much power you needed for it.
Right. Yeah. And if it happens so gradually, if you lose, once he got over 200 hours, whatever, and he's losing a quarter horsepower every whatever, and he's losing this, and it's like, it was so small and gradual, and then finally that piston, when it went, it just turned sideways and just wiped out the whole engine, you know.
Yeah. Did it wipe out the cases?
Yeah. Everything.
The thing was done.
Everything. I can't remember what we even did to resolve it. I think we got some parts from somebody at Honda, somebody we knew.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but it was
back when Cripper was there, you could get parts.
Maybe, yeah. All right.
Cripper was a good.
So that was cool. Okay, let's talk about the drop real quick. I've shown this on our Instagram a bunch.
Yeah.
The drop from FMF.
Yeah.
Donnie's got his here, and this one's a few weeks old, but they always have really cool classic designs, and I like the white designs. And this one, they every a month you get a new shirt. It's like $30 or so a month.
Yeah, 29 or something like that.
And you get a gift every month. And I know Donnie's a big drinker of the beverages, so this one holds you put your cup, your can in here, and you can hold your can. Instead of a koozie, it's like a $high koozie, because it's like a really, really high-end koozie to keep it cool. So, but anyway, they always have a different fun thing every month, and you can. It's not like, remember those old clubs, the CD,
Oh yeah.
when we would get CDs for a penny.
For a penny, Columbia House.
Then you were tied into this racket.
Yeah.
There's no racket here.
You had to buy like a CD a month or something like that.
So it got pretty expensive, and most of us all had a ding in our credit from from that deal.
I actually didn't fall for it.
That's I started.
I kind of already looked at that. I go, "There's something not right here."
I wasn't that bright then. I just wanted new CDs.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, you can pause it, cancel at any time. So really cool deal for a guy that wants a fresh T-shirt. But you could do it for 6 months. Pause it. put it back on 6 months later or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a gift for yourself. Like, so if you're the guy like that has everything and you don't get much because they're like, oh, we don't know what to get you. We don't know what to get you.
It's actually kind of cool not knowing what the gift is going to be
Every month, yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, what's coming? And there's been some really cool ones. And then obviously you had a drop.
And we had the cool ones. We had the Bead Buddy in there, which is so cool for guys. Yeah. So I thought that was rad.
Yep. So good.
All right. Let's go to, you asked, we got another question there?
Yeah. I think we do have another question here.
I think we were on that.
I know where we're at. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Jay. Hope all is well. When you're doing your CR250 builds and you're putting some of those air boots in a bag with some kind of lubricant to shine them up, what did you use? I can't remember. Currently working on an 82 CR125 and an 82 YZ100 builds. All the best. That's from Derek S. I don't know if I said that at the beginning.
No, okay. All right. Thanks, Derek. It's this stuff right here. Norm taught us this. Vintage Norm guy. Tire foam from Armor All, and I think there's some other ones out there, but this one works fine. And so if you put it, you just spray the rubber part, say the plastic or rubber, whatever it is, spray it really good, put it in that bag, leave it in there for a day or 3. And I put some stuff in there and forgot about it for a week, and it's
What
fine.
do you do when you revitalize older tires? Because that's capable.
Well, Dunlop doesn't recommend doing it. They say that it compromises it, but people do it. And so when they do it, you just you spray the inside of the tire, the outside, and put it in a bag again and shut up for a day or 2. And you pull it out, it rejuvenizes that rubber, so it doesn't look all dull and so forth. So Norm would have to do that with vintage bikes when they try to get the original looking tires, because there's some guys that sell some original tires for
new
bikes.
Old stock.
Yeah, $400 or $500 for one tire because
$400 or $500 for a tire.
Oh yeah, because it's not available.
Wow.
And they want to make their whatever bike original.
Wow.
So like for collector status, they want to have original tire.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing.
You're building an older bike, right?
Which one am I doing? All my Hondas?
No.
What am I doing now?
With Norm.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I forgot about it. We've done so little.
Yeah.
But yes, we need to get back on that. I have that 73 CR Honda, CR 400 CR they call them.
400 CR Husky.
Husky, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that someday. Hey, so what about, let's do some of those comments. Those are fun. We did those last show.
Yeah.
I think I got one ready for us.
Go ahead.
So this one's from Eric Nash, 8783. He's watching we did a video where we are breaking this log when we're up in the mountains.
Oh yeah.
And he says, I guess it's good to be the cameraman, because I was barking out instructions and orders for the guys that were breaking the log.
Okay, but here's the thing that like they don't know that that's what you do anyway.
Right, and I'm the oldest guy in the group. Is the way I justify this. Okay. What else you got, Donnie?
Hold on a second.
I got one. Here we go.
You go.
Mr. KTM65SX. And this is talk about 2 shows ago, show number 19, Don't Tell Me You Love Me. Thanks for another great episode, and I love Dawn Patrol. So he was a fan of Night Ranger and that show, so that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
We have a video I've mentioned a few times with the 120 dirt bike hacks and tricks. I think it's actually 125 that we put it together. We put it out last year. Or it's been about 10, 12 months. I don't remember. And this guy, Scotty Crodon, says, fantastic, fast-paced and easy to understand, simple and more complex tips and a few big surprises that sound great, like double tubing and the tire for trail riding. Wow, thanks. So we've gotten great comments on that video. So that's a really good video to check out. We should have a little picture of that video.
Yeah, if I get a picture, you'll have a picture.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, just go to that video.
Oh yeah, we'll just go to the video.
You can take a shot. You got to do something.
You got to do something. Yeah. All right, Paxton S.N. Jones 27. I judged you negatively on your past tire change video. My apologies. You are truly amazing. Everything you showed was new to me, and I know a lot of tricks.
That's cool. So he's admitting. So when he says he judged me, it means he must have commented negatively before.
Yeah.
That probably hurt my feelings.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one.
Do you own feelings?
Yes. Okay. This one, we have a video talking about leaky carburetor, we call it. And he says he's blowing air into the main fuel line coming from the gas tank / petcock or the on-off valves that goes into the carburetor. I did it on my 2000 WR450 and it worked like a charm. So when you have a carbureted bike, and you pull it out, especially after, a lot of times the needle seat will get stuck. And so in the past, what we do is pull the whole bowl off, get to that needle seat, contact clean it off, blow it off with air, put it back, and we're usually okay. Bunch of work and time, especially if you're out on the trail. The easiest solution is pull the line coming off the fuel tank, pull that off, and then you can blow air through that line, and it goes through the carburetor and just kind of blows everything out. All the
Who did you learn that trick
overflow hoses? Jungle.
Oh, Jungle.
Yeah, he would do that trick. I mean, I kind of maybe seen people do it, but really hadn't caught on. He did it on a couple bikes. I'm like, man, that works pretty good.
Yeah, and what everybody else used to do always.
Now just take it apart.
Or bang on the side of the...
I forgot about this. So yes, when you see a bike with dents in the side of the carburetor, it's because they hit it with a wrench or something. And it's like, if you're going to hit the side of the carburetor, because you can break it loose that way, use a soft tip of a hammer, like a soft hammer dead blow. Just use and I use the other end, the end you hold, just hit it with that a little bit.
I knew people that hit it with the backside of a screwdriver.
Yeah, or a hammer. But I would see so many carburetors with dents in them. Yeah, like legit dents.
Well, when they wouldn't get the result they wanted, they would hit it harder.
Right, just keep on hitting it.
Keep hitting it.
So, and when you blow this out, another tip for this when you do it is do it outside, because it does shoot a bunch of gas all over the floor.
So I have actually also filled up the fuel line with contact cleaner and then done it.
And then shot it.
Shot it, yeah. Right. So it's helped a little bit too.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right, Mark Hershey, I got a question for you. The bike bang that the carbureted KTMs experience, it's very annoying. I got a 2019 250 XC with only 7 hours on it. Put key in on still does it.
Okay, so what he's talking about is on a two-stroke, like a 300 or 250 two-stroke with a carburetor, especially with a carburetor, they can run really lean down in the bottom to where when you let off, and you say you're going down a hill, especially, let's say, you let off, and it's like ding, 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 and it's like, it's basically running too lean down there in the bottom, and it sounds like a chug, and it sounds...
That's how all old school bikes sounded.
Right, and the problem is if you richen it up to get rid of that, then a lot of times it's way too rich and you're fouling plugs and all that kind of stuff. So it is somewhat normal. It's more apparent trail riding than it is on the motocross track. And the motocross track, you'll never really get it to do it. All right. So my next one here that I got is Starcastle Lomitas. The guy also this is for a video called 4 Strokes Are Better Than 2 Strokes.
Oh, I remember that one.
Okay. He says, this guy, me, also put out a video that says 2 strokes are better than 4 strokes. LOL. Which is it, man? It's like fake news. So he caught me. We made a video of both. So we made a video.
Is that clickbait? Were you just clickbaiting?
Yeah, but they are videos, and we do give like 10 reasons.
It depends on what the bike is,
right? And so and who it's for and all the benefits. So I do have 2 videos on our YouTube that talk about why a 2-stroke's better than a 4-stroke. There's some things that come up real easy. It's better for a kid to learn, easier and lighter on the trail for the trail bikes, right? Way cheaper and easier to work on, all those types of things. So there's lots of factors that go into it. 4 strokes on the track, next level. Right. And then the longevity part we just talked about with like the EXCs and different bikes that can go so long, 300 to 500 hours. You can't get that on a 2-stroke, obviously. So it's really nice having a 4-stroke in many situations. So unfortunately, there's not one that's better than the other. But if I was to choose, I'm choosing my 4-stroke for the track, and if I had only one choice for off-road, I'd still pick a 4-stroke.
Yeah. It's funny when I hear younger people complain about bikes today. I'm like, dude, I had an 84 YZ250, and the power valve would come apart in the middle of the power valve. You had to I don't know. It's just so funny to hear them complain about bikes.
Well, we have so many good choices of bikes now.
So many good choices.
Yeah.
They're like almost all good choices.
And it's nice if you have the resources. It's nice to have a bike for kind of every discipline. A dual sport, a motocross bike, right? And then you bring it in a little tighter and go, I want one for just trails that aren't dual sport, but it's a little bit more moto-y. That's where a 350 XCF comes into play, So you have lots of different things you can choose from
I have definitely covered every base.
Because you got the full street bike, and now you sold your Harley that was a full street bike. So now you went with adventure bike, which is 80%, let's say, street intended, right? And whatever. And then you got dual sport over here that we showed last show. That dual sport is, man, that thing could do everything. Really, it really could do everything. You could ride it on the track if that's this.
We'll do a video on riding it, having somebody like Luke ride it at Glen Helen.
Yeah,
we'll do that. All right, Daniel 456234. He's talking about a bike tire change video. Jay makes this looks easy. To the average backyard mechanic, they're going to spend the majority of their day cursing, slamming, banging just to get the tire dismounted.
Wow. Well, that's why you got to watch the video. But
yeah. So, what is the fastest time you've ever done a tire? Have you ever done the fastest?
Not really, because it's all so subjective and different.
For sure.
Yeah. So, which tire it is a little different. Getting the old one off can be a little bit more time consuming.
Depends on how old that tire is.
Right. And that rim lock and all those things. So, but yeah, 3 to 4 minutes.
Remember we did that tire change video with you blindfolded?
Yeah. I want to do I don't know if I have a YouTube one. I think it's just on Instagram.
I thought we did YouTube.
I'll have to look.
Yeah. That was like 2 years ago, maybe? Yeah.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Because that one I go so slow that people can really follow along, right?
Yeah, but I think we still did it. You still did it in under like...
Well, it had to be under 15 minutes.
It was under 15 minutes.
It had to be for Instagram.
Yeah. Well, I think we did it you did it in just like 14 minutes and something.
Right. Okay.
Go.
New comment on carburetor hoses. And this is from Matthew Norris. He says... Great tips. This is my favorite dirt bike channel on YouTube. You don't try to mystify things. That's because things aren't very mystifying, right?
I don't think they are, but...
It's just a dirt bike.
You trying to Harry Potter people on here?
Right.
All right. Brake cap Moto tip video. That screwdriver that makes a big difference when you're working on a bike. Wish I would have known about this 20 years ago.
So he's talking about the JIS, the Japanese Industrial Standard screwdrivers.
Yep.
And they do make a big difference.
They make a big difference.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Now, I think we got through all those. I think the only thing I want to mention is that last one that the one that has those pieces from the EXC. So this is from a guy who says, "Hey Jay, I'm wondering who's this from? Chris Geeves. I'm wondering if you have ever seen this. I found this rubber piece behind the air filter on my 2020 Husky FE501." And and I have pictures here. I'll get you more pictures, but there's a picture of those pieces right there. So that Chris has. And what those pieces are, we'll have those pictures right there. That's just there's this reed cage that goes into the intake on a current bike. You just pulled them out of that bike.
I pulled them out of mine, yeah.
Do we have them around?
So I put them all like in a box or something.
Okay, so you don't got it. Oh, I see it. I see it right by the grinder. Grab it right there.
This?
No, keep on going. Keep on going. Right there. That's it. And it's missing the other piece that he fell out.
I have it.
So what he's talking. So this piece goes inside the intake on an EXC, and it's to cut down on sound and emissions and all that. So this piece goes in there, and that piece that we showed the photo of, that little bracket, it just fell off, and he found it back there. And so I told him what to do. So what to do is, you can just pull this entire thing out.
I actually grabbed it with a pair of channel locks, and like when I say it came out easy, I didn't even have to grab. I could have grabbed it with my fingers and pulled it out.
So you pull this out, and then when you do that, you can add a slip-on muffler and get your ECU mapped, or a new one from Jamie at Twisted, and that will solve your whole problem.
So,
and that bike will run, 333% better.
128 maybe. Hey, like, are those actual like two-stroke reeds? I was tripping out on those.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy that they came up with this and could make it cheap enough, because it's basically a throwaway item just to stuff in there for no other reason.
This bike won't be ridden in California, by the way.
No. So it's nice to, for guys to do that. And if you have your ECU from Twisted, that will solve the issue. And then you can really get the full potential of the bike. So that's what that one was. I think we're ready for CD.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Okay, so in 80s, early 90s rock, it was all about evil, right?
For sure.
For a lot of evil. Wasp and Crew was pretty, shout at the devil, and their pentagrams and so forth.
100%.
They were all devil worship and this and that. But most of it was show, just to shock value.
You look at Alice Cooper, like, just to get, he's a Christian.
Yeah.
And he's like, those two don't go together, but anyway.
So Stryper was the light in the darkness during that time. They were a hard rock band, but they had Christian music, and so they were this anomaly within there, and they had some pretty good records.
The truth is, I'm surprised. Also, they basically were mainstream success. I mean, they made it.
Yeah, because they had some love songs that people didn't realize, because the way they would sing the song, honestly, or whatever, they could be about a guy singing about a girl.
Right.
But they were singing about Jesus and so forth, and so much different. But To Hell with the Devil, one of our favorite ones. And what's really interesting about these guys is, I've just been listening to some interviews, and I started revisiting these guys, and they have a new album, When We Were Kings, and it was on Spotify. I didn't buy the CD, so there's only so much. I don't have any more room.
You can sample it, right?
I don't have any more room. Oh, on Spotify, I get the whole thing.
You get the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying not buying it. Oh, it just gives it to you.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't use Spotify.
Well, that's too bad. It's pretty good.
I only
So we were
use
using
Apple
Amazon
Music.
Yeah. I think Spotify, we found Spotify's kind of the best one to use. Now, and I've been getting some comments. My daughter's been reminding me I need to make a Dirt Bike TV playlist.
Oh, you have to do that for a fact.
Right, on Spotify, because that's what the people are asking for, so they could then see it. And
the problem is, it's like you don't have a lot of free time.
Right, so I don't know how I'm going to sit down and do this, but I could do it. Like, if I'm just kicking back late at night, I could probably do it.
Right.
And I just need to do it. So,
all right.
But we're talking like 200 or 300 songs. I mean, it would be like a lot.
Right.
I would put a sampling of everybody and try to get some stuff that maybe not everyone's aware of, but still good songs. And if I put songs on there, I want them to be good for a long time.
Right, right.
So anyway, Striper's worth checking out, even if you aren't into Christian music.
No,
or whatever.
it's good music.
Yeah, good music. And the new stuff sounds good. And what's funny is the newer stuff is even harder. Like, they've gotten harder rock sound the later. So most guys get wimpier, like Bon Jovi. They get like wimpier.
Oh yeah,
wimpy.
Right.
Through time. All right. What do you got to close out? You got anything? You got any questions to close out the show?
Yeah. So I wanted to know if you had to choose one mod to do besides exhaust and ECU.
Mm-hmm.
What would benefit a rider the most besides those two things?
Suspension. Always, yeah. I would even put suspension first. Like, is figuring out your suspension. And so I'm actually going to start messing with a new bike here, Yamaha 250F, and I want to compare it to the stuff I've been using and ride the stock stuff again and have a really good thought of where I want to go. Mm-hmm. So what do I want to change? What I want different from the stuff I ran last year, and then where the stock bike is, and compare them. So,
can you remember the first bike that you had like suspension legitimately done for you?
Yeah, like in the mid 90s, late 90s. But even then, I didn't really realize the value in it, I guess.
You know what? I had that terrible bike, the 97 CR250.
Right, nothing would help.
And nothing would actually did. RG3 did it and transformed that bike.
That's cool.
And then Steve Lampson's dad built the motor, and that thing was actually too fast for me.
Ripped. Do you have any pictures of it? You should throw them.
I do have a couple pictures.
Throw them in here.
Yeah, we'll throw it in
for free.
I have pictures of me riding.
It's no more work for me for you to throw those.
It's really
photos
not any more for you.
Not at all.
It's a few for me.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's throw those in there so people can see. This is a bit of a depressing time because we don't have rain to go ride and do some trips and so forth, but there's no races to watch, so I'm just kind of bummed out on that. So
I'm looking forward to the.
Well, you got your big adventure ride.
But what I'm looking forward to more than ever this year, because I don't want to get into my issues that I've had, but is riding my XCF on some of the hill tracks.
Right.
This is really what I've been thinking about lately.
And we need a good winter. Now, then the thing is, if we don't get a good winter in Southern California to where the desert's not as watered,
we need to go elsewhere.
Then we go north,
and
we go up to Mesquite or St. George or different places. Go find places.
That's what I've really been thinking about that. I'm excited that winter is actually coming.
Right. So hopefully we can get some rain and have a good winter riding. And anything else you got?
No, man, that's it.
T-shirt. Did I mention the shirt?
You did. We mentioned the shirt from last show at the beginning. We talked about that. Okay,
good. All right. CR250 shirt. Remember to get that from Decal Works. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Send us your questions via email is best. And people, how do you email? You can figure it out. But our website is Dirt Bike TV 1. You can go there to send us an email. You got tech questions. You send them to us. Next show we'll try to have on. We should get a mechanic guest again. We'll try to do that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Do something.
If you can't figure out how to email, ask your kids, and they'll tell you how to email.
They'll just know how to text or DM.
My son has been getting into computers, a lot.
Yeah.
And now he's telling me, this is how, I'm like, how much I do on computer stuff. And he's like starting to tell me now what I need to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because you're pretty tech savvy. So that's pretty awesome.
It's pretty funny.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
We work with some great companies, and here's a list of those right now. Dunlop motorcycle tires, Wiseco piston, Vinco air shocks and dirt bike parts, FMF exhaust, Decal Works graphics, Pro X racing parts, Recluse clutch revolution, Motion Pro specialty motorcycle tools, Works connection, Uni filter, Klotz oil, Cometic gasket, MX plastics, JE pistons, Cardo systems, ODI bars and grips. And remember, if you shop Rocky Mountain, use our link from our site, Linktree, or link in description of the videos. Thanks for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.